That Tuesday morning, I woke to the scent of pancakes burning and a tightness in my chest, like a warning I couldn't name. The kids, Ellie with her messy pigtails, Jack clutching his worn-out dinosaur toy, giggled in the kitchen, their voices bright against the soft clink of my husband's coffee mug. It was our routine, our life, carved into the walls of this creaky old house. I didn't know it would be the last time I'd hear Ellie call me Mama without a pause, or that by dusk, a stranger's perfume would linger where my family once stood. How does a mother vanish from her own story in a single day? I'm still unraveling the answer, and every thread pulls at my heart. The silence came first, sharp and unnatural. Jack's eyes flicked to the floor when I asked why his backpack was already packed. My husband, Tom, fumbled with his tie, muttering, "We need to talk." His words didn't land until I saw it. A sleek black coat draped over the couch, one I'd never seen, its buttons gleaming like a taunt. "She's moving in," he said, and my world tilted. Her. A woman whose name I barely knew, whose laugh I'd heard only once at a school event, now stepping into my place. I stood frozen, gripping a frayed photo of us at the lake, my fingers tracing Ellie's smile, wondering when I became invisible. Was it the late nights I worked, the fights we brushed off, or was it her easy charm, her promises of a shinier life that made them turn away? I've spent nights staring at the ceiling, chasing the moment I could have held them tighter, seen the fault lines before they cracked open. There's anger in me, bitter as cold coffee, but beneath it, a fragile hope that I might reclaim what's mine, or at least the woman I used to be. That day wasn't just a loss. It was a theft, orchestrated before I even knew the game had begun. And the worst part? A small, shameful part of me wonders if I let it happen. This story is my confession, my fight, my way through the wreckage. It's for anyone who's ever lost something they thought was forever. Maybe you're holding on to it right now, scared it'll slip away. What would you do if your family chose someone else? How do you rebuild when the ground beneath you is gone? I don't have all the answers, but I'm ready to face the truth, no matter how raw it gets. Stick with me through this. There's a long road ahead, and I'm not giving up yet. The kitchen reeked of burnt pancakes, that acrid char Ellie always begged for, her syrup-sticky fingers painting the counter in childish swirl. Jack's dinosaur toy, a chipped green T-Rex, teetered on the table's edge, its plastic eyes glinting like it knew something I didn't. Tom's coffee mug sat abandoned, steam curling upward, a ghost slipping free from its chipped ceramic prison. The morning felt normal, routine, the kind of Tuesday stitched into our lives like a well-worn seam. But there was a tightness in my chest, a knot I couldn't name, like the air itself was warning me the world was about to tilt. I shuffled to the living room, my slippers scuffing the hardwood, and there it was, a black coat folded too neatly on the couch. Its floral scent, sharp, expensive, not mine, slithered into my lungs, invasive, like it was staking a claim on my home. I ran my fingers over its wool, smooth as betrayal, and my stomach churned. Who leaves a coat like that, so deliberate, so out of place, in my creaky, syrup-sticky world? I carried it to the kitchen, holding it like evidence, and found Tom hunched over his phone, his thumb scrolling too fast. "Whose is this?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. His fingers froze, mid-swipe, and his eyes flicked up, guilty, like a kid caught stealing. "Claire's," he muttered, low, like the name was a secret he'd meant to keep buried. Claire. The word sliced through me, a blade I hadn't seen coming, its edge cold and precise. I'd heard it before, a parent at school, a laugh at a bake sale, but now it felt like a splinter under my skin, working deeper. I didn't ask more, not then. I went to Ellie's backpack, slung over a chair, its zipper half open like it was hiding something too. My hands shook as I dug through pencils and crumpled worksheets, finding a glittery hairpin, pink and gaudy, nothing like the plain clips I bought. Its sharp edge pricked my thumb, a bead of blood welling up, bright and accusing. I stared at it, the pain a quiet warning I shoved down, telling myself it was nothing. Kids pick up things. It didn't mean anything. but my pulse thudded, loud in my ears, saying otherwise. By dusk, the house felt different, heavier, like it was holding its breath. I stood at the sink, scrubbing dishes, when Claire's laugh cut through the air, high and bright, from the porch. It wasn't just a sound, it was a claim, a flag planted in my life. I peered out, and there was Ellie, my Ellie, her pigtails bouncing as she ran to Claire, her arms wide, her voice calling, "Claire!" Not Mama, not me. I froze in the doorway, the dishwater dripping from my hands, my heart a stone sinking fast. She'd never run to anyone like that, not even me, not lately. The porch light caught Claire's face, just a flash, but enough to see her smile, too perfect, too knowing. And I knew, standing there, that something had already broken, something I hadn't even seen crack. What do you do when your own daughter chooses a stranger over you? I didn't know yet, but that laugh, that name, that coat, they were the first fractures in a life I thought was mine. The bathroom mirror was cruel that morning, its fluorescent buzz stripping my face bare, hollow cheeks, eyes like smudged charcoal, a stranger staring back. I leaned closer, searching for the woman I used to be, the one who laughed at Tom's bad jokes, who braided Ellie's hair without a fight. When had she slipped away? The tiles were cold under my feet, the house too quiet, like it was mourning something I hadn't named yet. I splashed water on my face, but it didn't wash away the dread, curling in my gut, heavy as a stone. Tom was on the couch, snoring, his body a wall between us. I stood over him, clutching the lake photo, Ellie's grin, Jack's sunburned nose, my arm around Tom's waist. Its edges were fraying, curling inward like my courage, the memory of that day now a taunt. I wanted to shake him awake, demand answers about Claire, but his snores were steady, oblivious, locking me out. I tucked the photo in my robe, its weight a reminder of what I was losing, and crept to the kitchen. At breakfast, Jack sat hunched, his dinosaur toy hidden in his pocket, not on the table where it belonged. I offered him a smile, the kind I used to give without thinking, but his eyes skittered away, fixed on his cereal. "Want more milk, buddy?" I asked, my voice too bright, too desperate. He shrugged, silent, and the room felt colder. When had my boy, my chatterbox, turned into this quiet ghost? I swallowed the ache, pretending it wasn't there, but it grew, sharp and relentless. I found the note later, tucked in Ellie's lunchbox, its looping cursive like a slap. "My star, shine bright," signed Claire. My hands shook as I held it, the paper thin, her words slicing through me. She'd been in my kitchen, touching my daughter's things, claiming her with ink and affection I couldn't match. I crumpled it, then smoothed it out, hating myself for caring what it said. It wasn't just a note. It was a stake in the ground, her flag waving over my life. I drove to school, my pulse hammering, the steering wheel slick under my palms. There she was, Claire, kneeling in the parking lot, tying Ellie's shoelaces with a tenderness that wasn't hers to give. Her smile was too perfect, too practiced, like she'd rehearsed it in a mirror. Ellie beamed up at her, my daughter's face lit with a joy I hadn't seen in months. I gripped the wheel, my knuckles white, watching Claire stand, her hand brushing Ellie's hair, a gesture so intimate it stole my breath. She wasn't just here. She was taking my place, step by deliberate step. I sat in the car long after they'd gone inside, the engine idling, my reflection in the rearview mirror a stranger again. Claire's note was in my pocket, its words burning through the fabric. How do you fight someone who's already won your child's heart? I didn't know, but as I drove home, the house loomed ahead, its windows dark, like eyes that had stopped seeing me. I wasn't just losing my family, I was losing myself, and Claire was the shadow filling the space I'd left behind. Tom's voice drifted through the hallway, low and soft, saying her name, Claire, like it was a secret he'd been savoring. I froze, my bare feet on the creaky floorboards, the sound of her name in his mouth a betrayal, sharper than any knife. It wasn't just the word, it was the way he said it, tender, like he used to say mine, back when we were new, before the years wore us down. The house was dark, the kids asleep, and that whisper felt like a crack, splitting my world in two. I crept to his office, my heart thudding, and rifled through his desk, drawers squeaking like they were tattling. My fingers found a receipt, crumpled, for a necklace. $200, dated 2 months ago. I'd never seen it, never felt its weight around my neck. My breath caught, imagining it on her, Claire, gleaming against her throat as she laughed with my husband. I stuffed it in my pocket, the paper sharp against my thigh, a reminder of how much I didn't know. At dinner, Ellie twirled in, her braid tight and flawless, not the messy ones I'd knotted for years. Claire showed me how, she said, her voice bright. She's better at it. The words landed like shards of glass, cutting deep, her admiration for Claire a wound I couldn't staunch. I forced a smile, my face stiff, and watched her eat, her pigtails swinging like they belonged to someone else's daughter. When had my girl started slipping away, her love redirected to a woman I barely knew? I waited until the kids were in bed, then faced Tom in the living room, my voice raw, trembling. "Who is she to you?" I asked, the receipt burning a hole in my pocket. He looked away, his jaw tight, and said, "You're letting us slip away." His words were a slap, blaming me for his secrets, for the necklace, for Claire's name in his voice. I wanted to scream, to shake him until he admitted the truth, but my throat closed, choked by the weight of his accusation. I lay awake that night, the house groaning around me, its creaks mocking my unraveling life. The receipt sat on my nightstand, next to the lake photo, both relics of a life I thought was mine. Was it the late nights I worked, the fights we ignored, that let her in? Or was it me, too tired, too broken, to hold on? I stared at the ceiling, tracing cracks that weren't there before, wondering if my place in this family was already gone, stolen by a woman whose laugh I could still hear, echoing from the porch. Have you ever fought for something you could feel slipping through your fingers? I was trying, but every step felt like sinking deeper into quicksand. Claire wasn't just a name anymore. She was a shadow, growing larger, swallowing the light of my family. I clutched the photo, Ellie's smile fading under my thumb, and swore I'd find out what Claire was to them, what she'd taken from me. The house was silent now, but it wasn't peace. It was the calm before something broke, something I wasn't sure I could fix. Tomorrow I'd look harder, dig deeper, because losing them wasn't an option, not yet. Claire's boxes were stacked in the garage, their Sharpie labels, new chapter, fresh start, taunting me like graffiti on my life's crumbling walls. I stood among them, the air thick with dust and betrayal, my fingers itching to tear them open, to find proof of the invasion I could feel in my bones. The house was quiet, the kids at school, but the silence wasn't mine anymore. It was hers, Claire's, seeping into every corner like a stain I couldn't scrub out. I caught Jack at breakfast, humming a lullaby, soft and unfamiliar, his eyes bright with a joy I hadn't given him. "Claire sang it last night," he said, unprompted, and my fork froze mid-air, the metal cold against my palm. His dinosaur toy was back on the table, but it felt like a prop, a relic of a boy who used to be mine. I wanted to ask when she'd tucked him in, when she'd started rewriting my role, but his smile stopped me. So bright, so wrong, like he'd found a new sun to orbit. In the kitchen, Ellie clung to Claire's hand, their laughter over a tray of cookie dough, sharp as a blade in my chest. My mixer, my recipe, my daughter. And Claire was there, her apron tied too perfectly, her voice too warm. Ellie's pigtails bounced as she giggled, and I stood in the doorway, invisible, my hands empty, my heart a bruise. I tried to speak, to say, "Ellie, come here," but my voice was a ghost, swallowed by their shared joy. That night, Tom slid divorce papers across the dining table, his signature stark, final, like he'd already erased me. "This is what's best," he said, his eyes on the floor, as if I were a problem he'd solved. I stared at the papers, the ink blurring, my fingers trembling as I pushed them back. Best for who? Not me, not the kids, just him and her, Claire. The name was a splinter now, lodged deeper, festering. I wanted to scream, but the house was watching. its walls closing in. I found her perfume bottle on my dresser later, uncapped, its floral scent curling through the air like a taunt. It wasn't an accident. She'd left it there, a flag planted in my bedroom, her territory marked. I held it, the glass cool and heavy, imagining it shattering against the wall, imagining her face when I demanded answers. But I didn't. I set it down, my hands shaking, and stared at the mirror, my reflection fractured, a woman I didn't know anymore. Claire wasn't just moving in. She was carving me out, piece by piece. The garage light flickered as I stood among her boxes again, their labels mocking me. New chapter? For her, maybe. But for me, it was an ending I hadn't written. I ran my fingers over the cardboard, tempted to rip it open, to find something, anything, to prove she didn't belong. But the kids' laughter echoed in my head, Ellie's voice calling her name, Jack's hum, and I froze. What do you do when your own children choose the intruder? I didn't know, but I wasn't ready to let her win. Not yet, not without a fight. The parent-teacher conference was a fluorescent-lit nightmare, and there was Claire, laughing with Jack's teacher, who called her Mrs. Harper, my name, stolen in plain sight. I stood in the doorway, my purse slipping from my shoulder, the words landing like a punch to my gut. Mrs. Harper. That was me, the one who'd sat through a decade of these meetings, who'd signed permission slips, who'd sewn Jack's costume for the spring play. Claire's smile was wide, practiced, as she nodded at the teacher, her hand brushing a strand of hair from her face, claiming my life with every gesture. I tore through her boxes in the garage that night, the air thick with dust and rage, my flashlight beam catching a photo, Claire and Tom, arms entwined, smiling at a beach I didn't know, dated a year ago. A year. My breath hitched, the photo trembling in my hands, their intimacy a betrayal I'd been too blind to see. I'd been packing lunches, folding laundry, while they built a secret life behind my back. The photo felt like a lie, but it was real, its edges sharp, cutting into my palm. Ellie called me Laura at dinner, her voice flat, like I was a neighbor, not her mother. No mama, no warmth, just my name, stripped of meaning. I stared at her, my fork frozen, her pigtails still perfect from Claire's hands. What did you say? I asked, my voice thin, but she just shrugged, picking at her peas. The silence was a wall, and I was on the wrong side, a stranger in my own daughter's eyes. Claire watched, her lips curved, like she'd orchestrated every word. I screamed at Tom in the driveway later, the neighbor's curtains twitching as my voice cracked. How could you let her take my place? I shouted, my hands balled into fists. He shook his head, his voice low, tired. You're pushing us away, Laura. Me? I was the one clinging to scraps, while he handed my life to her. His eyes wouldn't meet mine, his guilt a shadow I could almost touch, but it slipped away, leaving me alone in the dark. In the guest room, the walls pressed close, the air stale with my failure. I sat on the bed, the mattress sagging, and stared at the lake photo, Ellie's smile fading under my thumb. Had I ever been enough? The late nights at work, the fights we let fester, did they make me replaceable? Or was it Claire, her perfect braids, her stolen name, that made them forget me? The house creaked, its groans a chorus to my unraveling, and I wondered if I'd been erased long before I noticed. What would you do if the life you built started calling someone else its own? I was still here, but my family was slipping through my fingers, their voices echoing someone else's name. Claire's perfume lingered in my mind, her photo burned into my eyes, and I knew this wasn't just a loss. It was a theft, deliberate and cruel. I curled into the bed, the sheets cold, and promised myself I'd fight, even if I didn't know how. Tomorrow I'd look closer, dig deeper, because giving up wasn't an option, not when my kids were at stake. I trailed Claire to the grocery store, my car a shadow behind hers, watching her pick out Ellie's favorite cereal, Lucky Charms, the kind I always said had too much sugar. Her hands moved with purpose, deliberate, each choice a calculated claim on my daughter's heart. The fluorescent lights cast her in sharp relief, her smile too bright, like she knew I was watching, knew I was braking. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white, the engine's hum a pulse matching the rage in my chest. At home, I snuck onto Tom's laptop, his password unchanged, a careless oversight. An email from Claire glowed on the screen. She's not what they need. We are. My hands shook, the words a gut punch, her confidence a blade twisting deeper. We. She'd already paired herself with Tom, with my kids, rewriting me out of their story. I read it again, the screen blurring, my breath shallow, as if the air itself was turning against me. She wasn't just here, she was erasing me, word by word. Jack left his dinosaur toy on the kitchen table, its chipped green paint a relic of a time when he was mine. I reached for it, needing its familiar weight, but Claire swooped in, her voice cool. He's outgrown that, Laura. She snatched it away, her fingers brushing mine, cold and deliberate. Jack flinched, his eyes darting between us, and I saw it, fear, not of her, but of me. My chest burned, like I'd swallowed shards of my own heart, the toy a symbol of everything she was taking. At dinner, Ellie leaned into Claire, whispering, "You're my favorite," her voice soft, like a secret meant to wound. I froze, my fork clattering against the plate, the sound loud in the silent room. Claire's eyes flicked to mine, sharp and triumphant, a predator savoring her kill. She didn't need to speak. Her look said it all. I was losing, and she was winning, step by calculated step. The room spun, the walls closing in, her victory a weight I couldn't lift. I sat at the table long after they'd gone to bed, Claire's email echoing in my head, her cereal choice, her theft of Jack's toy, all pieces of a puzzle I couldn't solve. Who was she, really? Not just a woman who'd slipped into my life, but something darker, more deliberate. Her eyes at dinner, that knowing glint, they weren't just replacing me. They were rewriting my existence, painting me as the outsider in my own home. I traced the table's grain, my fingers trembling, the wood worn from years of family dinners, now stolen. I couldn't sleep, the house creaking around me, its groans a chorus to my unraveling. Claire's mask was flawless, her smiles, her songs, her perfect braids, but beneath it, I sensed something cold, something calculated. I didn't know her endgame, but I felt it, a shadow creeping closer. Tomorrow I'd follow her again, dig deeper, because this wasn't just about losing my family. It was about surviving her. What do you do when someone's not just taking your place, but erasing you entirely? I didn't have answers, but I wasn't done fighting, not when her mask was still hiding the truth I needed to find. The kitchen was dim, the overhead light flickering. When I faced Claire, my voice low, barely steady. Why are you doing this? Her smile was cold, a crescent moon slicing through the dark. They want me here, Laura. Her words were a taunt, each syllable a nail in the coffin of my family. She leaned against the counter, her posture easy, like she owned the space, while I stood trembling, my hands clenched, the air thick with the scent of her victory, floral, sharp, inescapable. I found Ellie's journal under her bed later, its pages spilling with drawings of Claire, smiling, haloed, labeled "My Real Mom" in wobbly crayon. Each sketch was a dagger, twisting deeper, the colors bright against my blurring eyes. My daughter, my heart, had redrawn her world, and I was nowhere in it. I clutched the journal, my fingers smudging her lines, wanting to tear them out, to erase Claire's face, but I couldn't. It was Ellie's truth, and it was killing me, stroke by stroke. Tom confessed that night, his voice hollow, sitting on the couch like a man already gone. "I've been with her for a year," he said, his eyes on the floor, his apology a script he didn't believe. A year. I'd been packing lunches, kissing scrapes, while he built a life with her, behind my back, in my home. I wanted to scream, to throw the lake photo at him, but my throat was tight, my rage a stone I couldn't swallow. His guilt was there, but it was useless, too late. I called my sister, sobbing into the phone, the cord tangled like my thoughts. "Don't let her win," she said, her voice fierce, but mine was breaking, each word a plea for a map I didn't have. "How do you fight when your kids look at you like a stranger, when your husband's already checked out. I paced the living room, the divorce papers still on the table, their ink a verdict I couldn't accept. Claire's perfume lingered, a ghost in the air, mocking me. Outside the kids' rooms, I stood in the dark, their soft breathing a lullaby I wasn't part of anymore. Ellie's journal was in my hands, its weight crushing, each page a reminder of how far I'd fallen. Jack's dinosaur toy was gone, Claire's lullaby in his head now, and I felt like a ghost, haunting my own life. The house creaked, its groans a warning, and I pressed my hand to the door, terrified I was already a memory, fading with every breath they took. This war wasn't mine to start, but I was losing it, battle by battle. Claire's smile, Ellie's drawings, Tom's betrayal. They were weapons I couldn't counter, not yet. I sank to the floor, the wood cold, and stared at the journal, its pages a mirror of my failure. What do you do when your own daughter calls someone else her mom? I didn't know, but I wasn't done. Tomorrow I'd search harder, fight dirtier, because giving up meant letting Claire win, and I wasn't ready to disappear, not when my kids were still mine to save. I found Claire's old phone in a garage box, its screen cracked but alive, a text glowing. She's unraveling. Soon, they're ours. My blood froze, the words a cold hand around my throat. Claire's plan wasn't just to replace me, it was to erase me, to claim my kids, my life, as if I'd never existed. I scrolled, my hands shaking, the phone's light casting shadows on the dusty boxes. Each message was a piece of her puzzle, her words sharp, deliberate, a predator circling my family. I followed her to a coffee shop the next day, my car parked across the street, hidden in the morning fog. She sat with a man, his hand on hers, her laugh too loud, slicing through the glass like a warning. He wasn't Tom, but his eyes were sharp, knowing, like they shared a secret I wasn't meant to see. Claire leaned close, her hair catching the light, and I gripped my steering wheel, my nails digging into my palms, wondering what game she was playing. Who else was in on it? Jack tugged my sleeve that afternoon, his voice small. Why are you so sad, Mama? The word, Mama, hit like a spark in the dark, but his question choked me, my throat tight with the weight of his worry. I knelt, wanting to hold him, to promise I'd fix this, but no words came. His eyes, wide and searching, saw too much, and I realized he was caught in this war too, a casualty of my failure. I brushed his hair back, my hand trembling, and forced a smile I didn't feel. I dug deeper that night, finding court records online. Claire's past, 2 marriages, 2 families left in ruins, whispers of coercion trailing her like a shadow. She'd done this before, slipped into homes, unraveled them, and walked away clean. My heart pounded, the screen's glow burning my eyes, each word proof she wasn't just a rival. She was a destroyer, calculated and cold. I saved the files, my hands steady now, fueled by a rage that felt like salvation. I lay in bed, clutching the lake photo, its colors fading, Ellie's smile a ghost under my thumb. Claire's texts echoed in my head. Soon, they're ours. And I saw her plan, clear as broken glass. She wasn't just taking my place. She was rewriting my family's story, painting me as the villain, the sad, broken mother who didn't belong. The house was silent, but it wasn't peace. It was the quiet of a battlefield before the final strike. I swore I'd expose her, find her secrets before she stole the last of what was mine. What do you do when you find proof someone's tearing your life apart, piece by piece? I was scared, but not broken, not yet. Claire's phone, her past, that man, they were clues, threads I'd pull until her mask fell off. I tucked the photo under my pillow, its edges sharp against my skin, and closed my eyes, the house creaking around me. Tomorrow I'd dig deeper, follow closer, because this wasn't just about saving my kids. It was about saving myself from the woman who'd made me a stranger in my own home. I slipped into Claire's room while she was out, the air thick with her perfume, that floral sting like a warning in my lungs. A leather diary sat on her nightstand, locked, its worn cover heavy with secrets, as if it held the map to her schemes. I tugged at the clasp, my fingers trembling. but it wouldn't budge, its resistance mocking my desperation. I shoved it back, my heart pounding, the room's silence loud with the truth I couldn't reach. Claire wasn't careless. She'd left it there, knowing I'd find it, knowing I'd fail. I knelt before Ellie that afternoon, my voice soft, desperate. I'm still your mom, sweetheart. Her eyes widened, not with love, but fear, and she backed away, running to Claire's empty room like it was her sanctuary. My chest caved, her rejection a blade I couldn't dodge. When had my daughter learned to fear me? I stood frozen, her footsteps echoing, each one a step further from the life we'd had. Claire's shadow was everywhere, turning my own child against me. Tom caught me in Claire's room later, his voice sharp. You're losing it, Laura. But his eyes flickered, a crack in his anger, like he knew something he wasn't saying. I held the diary up, my hands steady, and asked, What's she hiding? He turned away, his voice breaking. You're obsessed. Obsessed? Or awake, finally seeing the war I was losing. His guilt was there, a shadow I could almost touch, but it slipped away, leaving me alone with my rage. I hired a private investigator that night, my savings drained, the phone call a lifeline I couldn't afford to lose. Find out who she is, I said, my voice hard, the words a vow. Why us? Why my family? The investigator's voice was calm, promising answers, but I felt the clock ticking, each second pulling my kids further away. I sat at the kitchen table, the diary's weight in my mind, Claire's perfume lingering like a ghost, taunting me. In my dreams, the lake swallowed Ellie's laughter, its water cold and endless, pulling her under as I reached, my hands empty. I woke gasping, the darkness heavy, the house creaking like it was laughing at me. Claire's diary, her locked secrets, her perfect braids, they were pieces of a puzzle I was running out of time to solve. I clutched the lake photo, its edges cutting my palm, and swore I'd fight, even if it meant crossing lines I'd never crossed before. What do you do when your own child looks at you like a stranger? I was stepping over an edge, into a place where right and wrong blurred, where saving my family meant becoming someone I didn't recognize. The diary sat in my mind, its lock a challenge, Claire's smile a taunt. Tomorrow I'd follow her again, dig deeper, because this wasn't just about her secrets. It was about my survival. I lay back, the ceiling cracked above me, and felt the fight in me sharpen, a blade I'd wield, no matter the cost, because losing Ellie and Jack wasn't an option, not when I was still their mother, even if they'd forgotten. The investigator's call came at dawn, his voice steady. Claire had torn through 3 families, leaving mothers broken, homes shattered, her pattern a calculated dance of ruin. I clutched the phone, my heart pounding, her texts. She's unraveling. Soon, they're ours, burning in my mind. She wasn't just a woman who'd slipped into my life. She was a predator, her smile a mask hiding a trail of destruction. The evidence was a lifeline, a weapon, and I held it tight, ready to end her game. I faced Claire in the living room that night, Tom and the kids watching, their faces pale under the lamplight. I read her texts aloud, my voice steady, each word a hammer. She's breaking. It's almost time. Claire's face drained, her perfect smile gone, her eyes darting like a trapped animal's. Ellie clutched Jack's hand, their confusion a weight I felt in my bones. I didn't stop, spilling her history, 3 families, 3 mothers erased, until the room was heavy with her lies, exposed and raw. Ellie ran to me, sobbing. I didn't know, Mama, her arms tight around my waist, her warmth a spark in the cold wreckage of my heart. I held her, my tears falling into her hair, her pigtails messy again, like they used to be when I was her world. Jack followed, his dinosaur toy in his hand, his eyes wide but soft, and I pulled him close, my family mine again, even if just for this moment. Claire's shadow was fading, her power broken. Tom stood silent, his eyes on the floor, his guilt a shadow I didn't need anymore. You let her in, I said, my voice low, not accusing, just done. He didn't answer, his silence a confession, and I knew I wasn't fighting for him, only for my kids, for the life we'd rebuild without his betrayal. Claire backed away, her hands raised. But I didn't care what she said now. Her words were ash, useless against the truth I'd claimed. I packed a bag that night, Ellie and Jack's hands in mine, their warmth grounding me as we drove to my sister's. The house receded in the rearview mirror, its windows dark, no longer home, but a battlefield I'd survived. I was broken, yes, but not defeated, not erased. I'd rebuild, not just for them, but for the woman I'd forgotten I was. Fierce, flawed, but still here. The lake photo was in my pocket, its edges worn, a reminder of what I'd fight for, always. This story is my scars, my fight, my truth. I've been shattered, but I'm piecing myself back together, step by painful step. If this hit you, if you've ever clawed your way back from loss, hit that like button. It's a nod to the battles we share. Comment. What would you fight for, no matter the cost? Subscribe, because this isn't the end. It's where I begin again, stronger, for me, for my kids. Join me, because we're not alone in this fight, and together we'll keep going, through the wreckage, towards something new.